guys explain those Badlands? That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like with the cat with the laser pointer, it's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today's Friday, made it through another week. Last Friday before Christmas, joined by the one and only Chris Paul. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Last Friday before Christmas. The year went so fast.
So fast, dude. Yeah, one last Friday. Next Thursday, we got to do the family thing. Christmas
I remember we started this year. Remember those two crazy events on New Year's? The truck in New Orleans and then the Cybertruck explosion outside Trump Hotel.
Mm-hmm. Wow, dude, that's nuts to kind of look back and how those stories just disappear.
Yep.
It's like nobody actually cared about those stories. Nobody really.
And they're pretty much unsolved. Like all the big stories that capture the nation's attention always remain unsolved somehow.
Yeah, that's nuts, man.
Except not the Brown shooting. That is totally solved now.
It's so funny. Last night, we were on Sit Rep, and somebody in the chat had put that the Brown shooter has been caught. And my first reaction, and I said this on the show, I said, sounds like they went out and got a homeless person and just put a bullet in the guy's head and somebody that wouldn't necessarily be missed, and now they can just move on from this. And I wasn't too far off.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Yep.
All right, we'll get into that, folks. Before we do that, let's jump in and get a word from our sponsors here. And first up, man, I was using this product last night. I made an inside skirt steak, and it was so freaking good. You guys know everyone's got that holiday cooking disaster story from the holidays. The turkey's either too frozen, or if you do a roast, it comes out like well done and you're eating shoe leather. Well, that all ends with Chef IQ. Chef IQ senses the wireless cooking thermometer that takes all the guesswork out of holiday meals. Your roast turkey or prime rib comes out perfect every single time, turning from I think it's done into I know it is perfect. Chef's kiss. Mwah. It even tells you when to flip it, when to take it off the heat, and how long to let it rest for. Basically, it's like having a personal chef right there in your kitchen. With Chef IQ, you can sip your cocoa and actually spend time with your family instead of hovering over the oven. And the best part, it's the gift that everyone will love. Perfect for seasoned cooks, kitchen rookies, and everyone in between. This season, give yourself and your loved ones the gift of perfectly cooked meals with Chef IQ. And with promo code Badlands, you will save 30% and get all your shopping done in one place. Just go to chefiq.com and use promo code Badlands. Again, that's chefiq.com. All right. And then let's talk about our friends over at Chef Man, and you guys can thank me later for this one, just did all your holiday shopping in one click, one location. Forget the panic shopping. Everything you need is at Chef Man. Here's the perfect list. By using promo code Badlands, you'll save 30% off everything. Start with the indoor pizza oven. Forget about delivery. With one-touch presets, you'll get authentic restaurant-quality pizza in just minutes. Crispy crust, gooey cheese every single time. Perfect for family nights or for the game day gatherings. Then, of course, there's the Obliterator blender. It's not just powerful, it's smart. You can toss in fruits, veggies, ice, even nuts, and it crushes everything. Auto blend technology senses when your ingredients are done and adjusts speed for silky smoothies, creamy shakes, and even hot soups. No guesswork, just perfection. And for some extra holiday fun, the slushie maker turns any party into a hit. Kids love the colorful slushie, and adults love the frozen cocktails. Easy to use, easy to clean. Make it your new holiday tradition. And then, of course, my personal favorite, the ice cream maker. This isn't just ice cream. It's ice cream, frozen yogurt, sorbet, sherbet, Italian ice, all from your own kitchen. Customize flavors, control the ingredients, and serve up happiness in just minutes. Everyone will ask for seconds. Why settle for ordinary when you can make extraordinary? Bring home the fun, the flavor, and the memories. Visit chefman.com and make this holiday season unforgettable. Head on over to chefman.com and check everyone off your list. Save 30% and watch them unwrap gifts that they will actually use. Go to chefman.com and use promo code Badlands. All right. And before we get into the news, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so yet. As Blue Demon says in the rant he just left, hit the like and leave a tax-free tip. Are we tax-free yet? Are we tax-free now in this industry?
We are if we do not pay them.
That is a great point. It is a great point. Okay, let's start out. First, we'll jump over here to the Brown story.
Of that subject match the description of that person of interest that this police department was desperate to put handcuffs on. That individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national, and his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is being conducted as we speak. And it goes without saying that I would like to personally thank the efforts again of the Providence Police Department.
All right, so we can end that there. So 48-year-old man, and the story gets a little bit stranger. This is being reported by Fox News. Homeless man who is a former Brown student helped locate the shooting suspect. Police are crediting a homeless man who previously attended Brown University for, quote, cracking the case wide open and helping them locate the car belonging to the suspect. Neves Valente, 48-year-old Portuguese national, is accused of shooting a dozen students, killing two at Brown before allegedly fatally shooting Nuno Loureiro, a nuclear fusion scientist and professor at MIT. According to an affidavit, police were alerted about a Reddit post with a description of the suspect's vehicle. Quote, I'm being dead serious. The police need to look into a gray Nissan with Florida plates, possibly a rental. Police later identified the Reddit poster as a homeless man who they said was extremely articulate and reliable. He told police that he sleeps in the basement of the Belarus and Holly buildings on campus. He said he observed the suspect in the basement area earlier in the day before the shooting and followed him out and had a strange encounter. The man told police the two were playing a cat and mouse game and would walk past each other and slow down. At one point, the two men were standing feet away from each other when the man asked the suspect, your car is back there. Why are you circling the block? Apparently, Goodwill Hunting is living in Brown. Are we not going to be concerned about the homeless guy living in the basement at Brown University?
That is unbelievable. And don't they have cameras there? They don't see this homeless man living in the basement of one of the most prestigious and expensive colleges in the country? That's preposterous.
Well, he came through in the clutch, Chris. He's a hero now because he's the one that solved this crime, apparently.
So an articulate homeless man is living in the basement of a building at an Ivy League college, and no one notices this. And he goes on Reddit to talk about murders that he witnessed, or that he witnessed the suspect. Am I getting all that right?
Yeah, apparently that's what we're told to believe.
Okay.
That with
I believe it, because that's the news.
With all the surveillance around Brown University, all the cameras, we got that one little clip of him walking the corner. We got another little clip that was leaked out. Nobody was able to follow this guy to a car and be like, oh, look, the suspect was driving a gray Nissan Sentra with Florida license plates.
Gosh,
it took a homeless man and his keen observations to be able to find this.
I love how they have a Spanish or perhaps Mexican immigrant as the chief of police in Providence, Rhode Island, like the whitest place on earth. I mean, honestly, the Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is from Rhode Island and belongs to a whites only country club. That's how white Rhode Island is. I mean, this is the most ridiculous story of a year full of ridiculous stories.
It's going to get a little bit more ridiculous in the next
Thank goodness.
Story. Not this right here, but check this out.
The car that he had used to not only drive to Rhode Island, but then back to Boston. And then there was the security footage that captured him within a half mile of the professor's residence in Brookline. And there is a video footage of him entering an apartment building in the location of the professor's apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit wearing the same clothes that he had been seen wearing right after the murder.
So you have an extensive video canvas as part of this investigation. That leaves you no doubt.
This is the evidence we have right now. We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and we wanted to provide you with the information and to assure the public that law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead, and that he was the person responsible not only for the Brown shootings, but for the Brookline shooting.
This woman, and I don't even know who she is, but it sounds like she is up there against her will. And it sounds like she's being forced to say something that she does not want to say. And I'm not, don't look too deep into that, but I want to go back and just play this one part again where the guy asks him, so you have all this video canvas, that leaves you no doubt.
Canvas as part of this investigation, that leaves you no doubt.
This is the evidence we have right now. We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed.
We're coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and all of this is going to be exposed, and our incompetence in this investigation is ultimately going to be exposed because we never decided to look at the surveillance footage of the guy's car. And because of that, an MIT professor in nuclear fusion is also dead.
We've talked about this a bunch of times, but it sounds like everybody is always just relaying information that someone else gave them. And because that person is in some rank of authority higher than them, they have to go out and repeat whatever they've been told. And I'm thinking about writing something about this, but man, there's these events, and this is just for hypothetical sake, because I haven't spent the time looking into it. But let's say, for instance, that this whole Venezuelan drug boat thing, right? We get the grainy black and white video online, and then we have reporters begin reporting what they've been told by the Pentagon, and then the president confirms it, and this and that person confirms it. And then we're like, okay, well, this thing really happened. There's the video. There's these people confirming it. The Pentagon says it happened. And it's like all of that stuff could just be made up like that. Like they could have prepared an AI video and had 3 people say, yes, that's what happened. And that would be the full extent of evidence that we get to believe these stories are all real, and then react to them, suggest that we should go to war on their basis, etc. It really is that easy for them to sell us stories. It's that easy. And that should be concerning to everyone. And they're like, well, are you saying all of it's fake? No, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm saying that your basis for belief is as thin as it can possibly be. And if you're not concerned about that at this point in 2025, something is seriously wrong.
Amen. Amen. And, I'm going to call an audible here and kind of move another segment up to right now based on what you were just saying right there. But before we do that, I do want to cover this facet of the story here. From the Associated Press, Trump suspends green card lottery program that let Brown University MIT shooting suspect into the United States. Secretary Kristi Noem said in a post on X, formerly Twitter, on hat tip to Chris Paul on that one, at Trump's direction, she is ordering the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services to pause the program. Neves Valente had studied at Brown on a student visa beginning in 2000. 2000.
At least that makes more sense for the age. Yesterday when it came out, they're like, he's a 48-year-old Brown student. I was like, all right, Billy Madison has had a rough life.
In 2017, he was issued a diversity immigrant visa and months later obtained legal permanent residence status. It was not immediately clear where he was between taking a leave of absence from the school in 2001 and getting the visa in 2017. So this guy comes over here, gets into Brown. By the way, I was a senior in 2000, or excuse me, I was a junior in 2000, I think. I was still in high school. I would have loved to have been able to go to Brown, but instead we had to bring over a Portuguese man to take that spot from me.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Obama. Well, that was
white male grievance, Brian.
2000 was Bush, but thanks, Bush. Remember that one woman that had that viral thing back in the day? Thanks, Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Just broke a fingernail. Thanks, Obama. It burnt my breakfast. Thanks, Obama. Anyways, the diversity visa program makes up to 50,000 green cards available each year by lottery to people from countries that are little represented in the U.S., many of them in Africa. The lottery was created by Congress, and the move is almost certain to invite legal challenges. Nearly 20 million people applied in 2025 for the visa lottery, with more than 131,000 people selected, including spouses. Portuguese citizens only got 38 of those slots. Where the frick was this guy for 16 years? And why do we have a program where somebody is able to come over here under the assumption that they're going to be students and contributing members of society, and then they disappear for 16 years and I guess apparently re-enroll in 2018, and Brown's just like, yeah, come on back. And you've got a 45-year-old, whatever he was at that time, 40-year-old student now going to Ivy League schools. Whatever, man. They got people sleeping in the basement. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing at Brown.
They don't seem to. When we have, at least in the past, when there have been public shooting incidents, one of the first things that we get, one of the first reactions from power, from, government, et cetera, from the media, is that something has to be done about the gun problem each and every time. And they will immediately jump to trying to propel that event, that agenda item forward. They are going to take the event and then use it for the political agenda that they already were pursuing prior to the event, which means they don't care about the event at all. The event has become a tool for them. So to the extent that the event happened, the event itself might be a tragedy, but none of the people reacting to the event treat it as a tragedy. They treat it as a tool. And this is a complaint I've been making for years, and we've discussed it on this show for sure. But that is also, by the way, what's happening right here. And I'm not saying that the agenda is a bad agenda. I'm not arguing with the agenda. I'm not arguing with the tactic. And I'm certainly not arguing that people from other countries should just be continuously brought into the United States of America. Obviously, I don't agree with that at all. But what we can see is an immediate political action that is right in line with the rest of the agenda that's been pursued. And so this story provides narrative cover for pursuing that agenda, and it propels that agenda forward. And we can expect that there are probably going to be challenges to keep this program in place through some court system, and it'll go step by step all the way up to the top. And then we'll get some resolution that says, yes, of course, this program can be removed. But the story just ends up being for the sake of everything else in the political agenda, and the reality or non-reality of the story is completely forgotten about.
One of this kind of also pushes back against a topic that was hot in everybody's mind, and one of those dividing points in MAGA, when President Trump said we need to let 600,000 Chinese students into the United States. And here we are less than a month later, 2 months later, and President Trump's like, yeah, you remember that program I was saying 600,000 Chinese students should come in? Yeah, let's just close that program altogether. We don't need any of those students, and let's just shut it all down. So it's interesting how that came full circle in just a couple of months.
Yeah. And I mean, again, the story is brought up, and the national conversation about the issue, all of that comes about because the story exists. And by the end of that process, well, we're able to finally change the policy that no American really supports in the first place.
Yeah. So, all right. So I wanted to pivot here. I'm going to change things up a little bit, and I want to get into this story because I saw this morning. It's not, it's not breaking news by any stretch, but it is along the lines of the mis and disinformation, and trust the authoritative sources, that Chris was alluding to with this press conference here. This is from The Conversation: An Academic Rigor with Journalistic Flair. How misreading Google Trends is fueling the Bondi attack conspiracy theories. And it's more than just the Bondi attack. It's just that's the one that brought this story to fruition. Conspiracies and deliberate misinformation have now spread on social media. One thing some people have latched onto is the idea that Google Trends data shows a spike in searches for Navid Akram, the name of one of the attackers from Tel Aviv, before the shooting occurred. Now, this is the same thing we talked about on this program with Romulula, Lacular, whatever the guy's name was, the National Guard zero unit Afghani shooter, right? Same thing with that. We saw searches in DC for his name before the event had even occurred. Well, guys, that's only because you just don't know how to read data, apparently. Similar stories did the rounds when U.S. right-wing activist Charlie Kirk was killed in September and after an attack on U.S. National Guard members in November. So what's going on here? Well, Google told the ABC that Google Trends may sometimes show searches when none actually happen due to statistical noise. Statistical noise. If you guys, for those of you that watch the Colorado hearings on the Mesa reports, time drift comes to mind right here. Why were the clocks off? Well, it's time drift. Automated systems, computerized algorithm, software, code. It has its own mind of its own, I guess. I don't know.
It's Schrodinger's terrorist.
It's little bugs inside the system.
Yeah, the name only arises when you think about it.
Yeah. Google Trends show information about what users are searching for at different places and times. Statisticians call this a time series. but they are unusual in a couple of ways. First, you can very easily select different time scales, such as minute by minute and year by year. Second is the fact that data are only a small sample of the true gigantic volume of Google searches. My research has shown that queries related to terms that are not widely searched can display a wide variation of results from one sample to the next. Many of the misleading social media posts show trends results from a small region, such as the city of Tel Aviv, which exacerbates the variation. The high variation causes a very distinct pattern of zero or non-zero values with some isolated big spikes. These spikes are often called
near zero values.
Yeah, zero or near zero.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. These spikes are often caused by statistical noise in the data, small random fluctuations that are smoothed out when we look at a large number of events. The time point in the series with the highest number of searches is set to 100. So we talked about this actually when we did the DC one. So it spikes, like the highest number of searches is going to be registered at 100, and then it scales all the equivalent searches based on that 100 rating with the highest. It basically gives you the results in scale of that. It says the time point in the series with the highest number of searches is set to 100, and all other points are scaled relative to that. So if the maximum number of searches was 10, then it would show up as 100. And if there were 3 searches at another time, it would show up as 30. Okay, we got it. Now, just in case none of that made sense to you, clarified absolutely nothing, they're going to double down and make sure that you understand. Just trust Google, because you don't know what you're doing, but these people do. The power of common sense. Even without understanding all of this information about Google Trend data, some common sense can also help. For example, there are many people named Naveed Akram, including a Pakistani football player. I don't know too many Ramulellas Lackenwalls, but I guess that's a common name. I've never heard that name mentioned before. If it was like Muhammad, sure, I got you. Mm-hmm. Or Ahmed or something along those lines, sure, I got you. That there might have been a few searches for Naveed Akram even before December 14th is therefore not surprising. What happened to statistical noise? How quickly we got away from the idea of this just being statistical noise to now moving that, it's like BB would say, the Hegelian, the goalposts are moving here. Well, there might have been some searches before, but that's just because Naveed Akram is a really popular name. Google Trends data can be incredibly useful for understanding events in real time. For example, it has been used to predict, with a margin of error, the outcomes of elections and referendums. But God forbid you check and see if a bizarre name was searched before an event that would ultimately lead to mass searches for his name. However, to do so properly and not perpetuate fiction, one has to understand the data and interpret the results properly. And Google Trends certainly does not tell us anything about Naveed Akram and the Bondi terror attack. I read that this morning and I was like, holy shit. Like, that's where we're going now, is we're trying to explain away these weird anomalies, like names being searched right before an event. No history of it before that. No, significant history. It just, I don't even know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if that Pakistani footballer is a popular name or was for some reason coming up in the news, maybe somebody was researching him, and fine if that's the case. But yeah, this seems like it's going to great lengths to tell people that this isn't what you think it is. But of course, it's not that difficult to see how these things could come to be. I mean, do you remember in the Paul Pelosi Hammer Time event when people were researching David DePape and they found these articles that had been written supposedly years before and the rest of it? And one of the conversations that spun off of that event was whether or not these things could be planted on the internet like right now and be made to look like they were put there years ago. I think that's probably entirely possible. I mean, I think, physically and the rest of it, it's totally possible. And if you have the access to be able to do that, then you could do it. The idea that these names are searched in advance is not all that surprising to someone like me, because I look at these events and think, oh, you have now created the identities of patsies and you will flesh out an entire backstory and life for this character. So to be setting that character up and doing all of that a day in advance or a few days in advance before releasing this patsy into the world, that sort of thing wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, do I know that that's what happened? No. And I want to be very careful about these things, right? We're talking about these ideas on a theoretical level here. I cannot possibly know that that's what happened in this situation. But when we see this sort of thing happen over and over and over again in event after event after event, you really do have to wonder what's going on in the background of these things, because nothing about any of these events is fully believable in the story that we get.
100%. Alpha actually, when we were talking about the Afghani guy, Alpha actually had an interesting take on it, saying that, you know, perhaps there was intelligence that they were getting, intelligence whisperings that an event might be happening and this might be one of the suspects, and therefore they were doing a quick search on Google to see what popped up when this name was mentioned. And again, we also don't know, outside of that, we don't know what other bizarre names. If it was an intelligent search, like, sure, we know that they searched for Naveed Akram because that was one of the names that was involved in this, but there were several other names that they may have searched to see because they had intel saying it might be this person, it might be this person, but we don't know about those experiences and those searches. So, I mean, I'm not saying that this is like definitive science, but the fact that you have ABC and then this author here in an academic journal, coming out and saying something like this and just being completely and totally absurd in the logic. I mean, this is the Google Trends data is sold to mega corporations in order to be able to assess, certain trends in buying and what's being talked about, et cetera, et cetera. And you're basically saying, hey, our data's garbage. Our data is garbage. Like, you can't trust our data because here's an example where we're telling you that this is all made up. This is statistical noise.
Yeah. Well, they're also telling you that you don't have the ability to properly analyze their data, right? You don't know how to separate statistical noise from statistical signal. And that, of course, is always the claim. You don't understand. We're going to appeal to these authorities, these experts who do understand, and then we can finally put your mistake in context and continue on using this system in the right way.
I am one of the world's most prominent election deniers, Chris Paul. I am very familiar with being told that I don't know how to data. I'm very familiar with that.
I get it.
Yeah, I thought that was a crazy experience. You brought up the David DePape thing, and there was the same thing there because he had all these websites that, were repurposed, and you could see when they were repurposed from selling, hemp trinkets and little gadgets and gizmos into full-blown QAnon conspiracy websites. Have you ever done a dive into that and seen like the timing of that?
I mean, I spent a little time on it when the event happened, and that was like, what, 2.5 years ago. So I don't remember at this point.
So that was like,
by all means,
that was like one of the most fun conspiracy kind of digs that I went on. The day that those websites began to change into QAnon conspiracy websites was the day that Paul Pelosi took a plea deal in his drunk driving Napa Valley incident. And if you go back and look at the drunk driving Napa Valley incident, when he got in that accident in the middle of the night at like 2 o'clock in the morning when he was drunk, the first person on scene was a local sheriff. And that local sheriff not testified, but told a story that there was a passenger in the car with Pelosi. And he left. That sheriff allegedly took that person and got them out of Dodge before other authorities showed up, fire rescue and all that stuff. And there was a lot of speculation that David DePape was that person in that car. And then when Pelosi was let go, they had to put out a smear campaign so that if DePape ever came back on the radar, they could say that this is a guy that's been weaponized by QAnon and he's a conspiracy theorist and a crook and all that. And that would explain how a 45-year-old or 40-year-old, crazy lunatic man was able to get into second in line to the presidency's house without anybody noticing, because an $800 million home or whatever the value of that home was in San Francisco doesn't have security cameras that are functioning, doesn't have a U.S. Capitol Police presence, even though the Speaker of the House, which she was at the time, would absolutely have, that. There was disappearing witnesses. Like, that's one of the most fun conspiracy stories of all time for me, man.
Yes. And remember the video that they showed us like weeks or maybe it was even months later of the police showing up at the house and the attack actually occurring? Man, I'm trying to find a short one. These are all like
fun.
Wait, hold on. Here we go. Should we watch this?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. It's Friday.
It's always fun to see these things later on, like in when these things happen, they're so immediate and everybody's arguing about them. And everyone on Twitter has to be super responsible. You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that. And it kind of changes how we view these events. But here you go.
How you doing? What's going on, man? Everything's good. Hi. Drop the hammer. Nope. Hey. What is going on right now? What you doing? What's going on, man?
Drop the hammer. Nope.
Drop the hammer. Nope. Hey. What is going on right now?
I mean, what in the world was that?
And notice the blow just is conveniently off screen.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that couldn't have been staged any better.
I mean, I've read that complaint. I've read all the iterations of that complaint. I mean, the guy was like invoking our founding fathers and like, if our tally ho, if George Washington couldn't do it, then it's just so ridiculous. All right.
I think that the woman who wrote that report, I think it was a woman who wrote that report, if memory serves, and I could be wrong about that, just to make that very clear, because we want to be responsible. Also did the report on Gavin Newsom's bomb threat up in Napa Valley or whatever. And it's always great when they can report these threats, and the report of the threat is itself proof of right-wing terrorism. And we were told, I think at the beginning, that this was something to do with the right wing as well, because of course those QAnon reports were there. Yeah, never mind. We don't have to get into deeper.
The first criminal complaint or statement of facts, I should say, that the FBI put out said that there was another witness, and this witness completely disappeared. I think it was witness number 1, who was working security at a house next door, was sitting in his car, heard the glass break, and then said within a couple of minutes, heard authorities arrive. Now we're told that the glass broke in the back of his house, and then he was inside the house for 45 minutes before they were able to call police.
Yeah, weren't they having like drinks and smokes in the kitchen or something?
Well, he went to the bedroom first, and like he took his phone and like called the police, and like they're on the phone with the police together, and they're just like talking. They're like, "Yeah, I'm here at the house. Yeah, I'm here at the house," and it's the weirdest fucking story.
Drop the hammer. Nope.
Nope. And it wasn't even like an authoritative drop the hammer. It's like, drop the hammer? No. All right. Let's get into another bizarre story. Here we go from the New York Post. Unseen photo reveals the time that Bill Clinton demanded that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell join him at a king's wedding. Totally crazy. And then, of course, the New York Post just puts out, what's the first cover photo? Not Epstein and Clinton, but let's get that Trump Epstein shit back in the mainstream. Bill Clinton shocked his own aides ahead of Moroccan King Mohammed VI's 2002 wedding by demanding to bring 2 unrelated plus ones, the now notorious Epstein and Maxwell, to the royal nuptials. Clinton, who had earned goodwill in the North African nations by attending the funeral of the king's father, Hassan II, while president 3 years prior, beamed with Epstein, Maxwell, and his daughter Chelsea in a group photo shared exclusively with the Post. Quote, Clinton brought them as guests to a king's wedding. I mean, it almost sounds made up. My favorite quote of the whole thing. Says a source familiar with everything. How many times in your life have you been invited as a guest of a guest at a wedding? Members of Clinton's own team considered it rude. Hillary was in the Senate, so she, of course, couldn't go. It's unclear what exactly the Moroccan king's aides said upon receiving the request, but, quote, obviously they said yes, and they jumped aboard the Lolita Express private jet for a flight to Morocco. Chelsea Clinton, then a student at Oxford University, traveled independently. And here is the photo. This is the photo. Is that Obama to Clinton's right?
Nice one.
This is the photo that we're told is the evidence that Clinton, Maxwell, Chelsea Clinton, and everybody else went to this wedding. And I mean, it looks like a disposable camera. I mean, granted, it was 2002-ish. I can't even with this shit, man.
Clear photographs were actually taken at that point in time, though, and it's funny because whenever we get stuff like this, it's always so blurry. Like, how did the Afghanistan plane, the last plane out of Kabul, how did that video get so blurry and look like it was from the 1980s?
Because they did it with a Nokia 6360 cell phone. They stopped playing Snake for 3 minutes to take that video.
Snake. Oh man.
What was the one? What was the one? What was the one we used to play on the TI-83 calculators? That was like the redneck, like wheelbarrow. Like you're like, you have to make decisions. Like press 1 to dump the girl out of the wheelbarrow. Press 2.
I don't know.
You never played those games?
Sure.
Oh, they were so stupid. So stupid. Anyways, yeah, we're to believe that's, I guess, a photo, and that it's just now coming out 23 years later that Jeffrey Epstein was with Bill Clinton at the Moroccan king's wedding. Like that to me in and of itself is insane. One of the most scrutinized people in all of the media, at being Jeffrey Epstein over the last, decade or so. And nobody was ever like, hey, Bill Clinton brought him to a royal wedding in Morocco.
Yeah, something about that story just ain't right.
When President Trump calls this a hoax and says, this is all crap, you got to assume it goes both ways. That it's not just like crap levied against him. And I'm not saying that Bill Clinton's innocent in any of this and by any way, shape, or in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, this is what we're getting right now is a wedding that nobody knew about.
This is one of the dangers of going all in when the evidence is just not there.
I feel like you guys could find out that I was at a wedding in 2002 a lot quicker than you could find out about a world famous pedophile and financier and a former president being at a wedding.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But all those files are supposed to be coming out today. So,
is today the day? A Friday news dump?
Friday news dump right before Christmas, so we can all go to the holidays and do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Haven't we been told that like the people in Pambani's office have been like furiously redacting things all week to save Trump from the embarrassment of his involvement with Epstein? Isn't that the thing they've been running with?
I don't know, man. I don't even know anymore. I will say one thing that if this does turn out to be true and there was an event here, it sounds like it's actually a good thing now that the Clintons both were let go from their depositions that they were supposed to give this week and rescheduled for later on, when we can now ask them about their illustrious trip to the Moroccan royal wedding. Indeed. With Epstein bringing extra people. So there's always that, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. All right. All right. Before we move on, I want to talk about another sponsor real quick. I want to share a quick story about a farming family that's supporting this channel. 8 years ago, their brother returned from Afghanistan with significant injuries. They watched as he became a shell of his former self and lost the ability to function. We can't share the exact story because of FDA restrictions, but friends kept suggesting CBD. So they tried dozens of CBD products, but nothing helped. Out of frustration, they began to create their own. They started making it to help friends, family have CBD that they knew was clean and as powerful as possible. And then doctors started asking to carry it, and it took off. Now they speak at medical conventions and help others across the U.S. While most companies have 1 to 10 compounds in CBD oil, theirs has up to 50. They have 8 things that make their products different. They make balms, gummies, pet products, etc. They're called Emerald Med, and you should check these guys out. If you get their CBD and don't notice a big difference, they'll actually provide a refund. If you want to support a business that supports our channel and free speech with marketing dollars, and if you need a source for CBD that's real, they're running a Christmas deal. You can click the link below to try Emerald Med for 40% off today. Get extreme muscle and joint relief, get significant inflammation circulation support, and support quality sleep or even daytime calm. They're worth a try at least once. Just click the link below and use the code for 40% off up to 2 items today. And that's actually, you know what? That's a good segue, Chris, because we got my favorite announcement President Trump has ever made yesterday.
Some GOP lawmakers have written to you in recent days saying they're concerned this executive order could normalize drug use for youth. How would you respond to them?
You're talking about this particular today? Well, I think I'd let one of the doctors respond to it because he can do it a lot better than me. But I can only tell you that when you see polls of 82% of the people want this, when I have friends that are really, really sick and they've gone through, I guess you could say, unfortunately, I don't want to become too involved in it because I don't want it happening. But these are people that really know what's going on. Very smart people. This is one of the most successful people in the country and a very brilliant guy. And when they go through this horrible ordeal of cancer or other things, and they realize that this is something that makes them feel better without all of the side effects of some of the drugs where you're just totally knocked out and out of it. But I'd like to have one of the doctors maybe respond because you people do it better than anyone.
I'm happy to respond.
Yes.
I mean, and my answer is we have had cannabis scheduled for how long? And it hasn't protected neither the adolescents nor the adults. We have 20 million people in the United States with a cannabis use disorder. This is not legalizing it. It's making easier to do research so that we can use it when it is indicated and optimally.
So it's also a big part of this is research. In other words, you'll now have a much larger sample and you'll be able to see if it's as good as many people say it is. I mean, people say it is beyond good, and you'll be able to find that out now.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited about that announcement.
Yeah, I mean, has there been any indication of what that's going to do for sentencing or anything like that, or anything retroactive?
No, it's not legalizing it. It's actually, I mean, it doesn't do really anything. All President Trump is basically doing is telling people, you know, that have the authority, which I don't understand how he doesn't, but under the CSA, the Controlled Substance Act, telling them to deschedule this and make it go from a class 1 to a class 3. It's not going to do anything in terms of legalizing it. It's not going to. The only thing it's going to do is it's going to make research more available to outside entities. Because right now, as a Schedule 1, cannabis can only, it's very limited as to who can research it. And it's basically just people the DEA says can look into this. And when you do that, you obviously have massive conflicts of interest in ensuring that the product never gets any recognition for what it's actually capable. And that's why when people come at me and they're like, well, there's a study show that induces schizophrenia. And I'm like, yeah, and it's done by big fucking pharma. You know, the only people that are doing studies on this right now are people that don't want you to be able to use this product. Now, as a Schedule 3, it opens up research to many, many, many different organizations.
So, but don't they do different sentencing in federal crimes when it's a Schedule 1 versus a Schedule 3, for instance, or is that not the thing?
I'm sure that that's a good question. Let me check that out.
Because if that's the case, you would think that people serving sentences for marijuana, like being a dealer, whatever it might have been, you'd think that there would be some impact on that. This is not my field at all, so I have no idea. Well, in terms of the research, what would it? You're the perfect person to ask this. What would you think if the research led to the pharma companies putting out a pill, for instance, that had the effect of the cannabinoids, and it wasn't actually a person ingesting cannabis or THC or anything? It was them ingesting this pharma company pill that they had researched as a result of this.
That's definitely something that's concerned me. They already have a patent on a pill called, I think it's called cannabinol, which is a cannabinoid derived drug. Because even though it's a Schedule I drug, which means it has zero medical value, the United States government owns the patent on the only medical value of cannabis that's accepted, and that is cannabinol to treat symptoms of chemotherapy. And so while they say it has no medical value, the government is literally the patent holder on the medical value of cannabinol. As far as your earlier question, it says, I asked the machine, and it says, yes, drug scheduling under the CSA directly affects sentencing for both users and dealers by establishing statutory minimums and maximums tied to each schedule. Higher schedules like 1 and 2 carry harsher penalties due to classification as having abuse potential and limited medical use. So you are correct on that. Now, as far as, and to get back to that main point, my goal with cannabis is total descheduling. Like, the government has zero business involved in this, in telling us whether or not. And again, I'll refer back to the, I've said this many, many times, but one of the things that really stuck out with me about Boone Cutler was we were doing a town hall back in probably like 2016 or 17. And Boone Cutler had said, the way the FDA determines label warnings on drugs is they give it to you to a certain point where they realize it's toxic to you, and then they back it down to the next noted point, and that's where they put the safety, information for that particular drug. And so with cannabis, when you go up the scale and you find that it never becomes toxic to you, FDA, get the fuck out, was Boone's famous expression. I should go back and see if I can find that clip. I know that was a live streamed event. So
it's absolutely crazy to me that the government is allowed to have any say in the plants you're allowed to grow on your property and the things that you're allowed to put in your body. Like, all of this, I guess, if it's got to be baby steps, then fine. And we can be mildly happy about those things. But all of this is so upside down. The idea that we have to ask the government, who are our agents or are supposed to be, for permission to do these sorts of things is bananas.
And, this is one of those few, and the whole reason that my name that I adopted was Cannabis Conservative, CannCon, is because I'm trying, I'd been trying when I first started doing all of this before the 2020 election, was to crush the stigma around cannabis, because it's something that I've been very dependent on. It doesn't mean I'm addicted to it. Again, people give me shit all the time, and they're like, stop taking cannabis. Well, the whole time I was sick for 6 days, I didn't smoke cannabis. And when I was done, being sick for 2 or 3 days, I was like, didn't want to smoke, and now I'm back to normal, consume each and every night. And, the problem is the stigma has been ingrained in people's heads. And, I apologize if I offend anybody in the audience, but the older you are, the more susceptible you are to that brainwashing. And, the thought process behind it needs to be exactly what we both just discussed. It's non-toxic to you, and the government has no business telling you that you can't grow a plant and consume a plant.
Yeah.
There's just no world in which that's freedom.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that. And the addiction thing is a kind of a blurry line, right? Any substance, any activity can be something that a person becomes addicted to if they become pathological about it. And that is more of, a focus thing for the individual. It's a spiritual thing. It's a number of things that are not necessarily dependent on the substance itself. And so I'm with you 100% about the legalization and the rest of it. It should be widely available for whoever wants it. And people wanting it or not wanting it is up to them. And if it becomes a problem for them, it's up to them to fix it.
Amen. One more clip from that event. And I sped this one up. It's RFK Jr. Talking about this.
I'll just echo, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership and vision and finally getting to closure on this issue. This is a question, a scientific question, that has divided our country for many, many years. And there are valid claims on both sides. On one side, patients and physicians attest that cannabinoids and THC can have miraculous effects on chronic pain, on epilepsy, on PTSD, on chemotherapy-induced nausea. My friend Howard Kessler, without whom we wouldn't be here today, drove this change in the schedule. But he did it because of his own experience in mitigating the impacts of chemotherapy. There's nothing to gain from this. He just saw something that worked for him, that worked for thousands of other Americans, and he wants to make it available to them. On the other side, there are valid claims about the negative impacts, about addiction, about psychosis, about adverse public health impacts, and impacts particularly on young people. So the evidence on all of these is anecdotal and it's hypothetical because we have not been able to do scientific studies. There is no standardized dosing. And if you don't have standardized dosing, any study that you do is comparing apples to pears. And we don't know the difference between botanicals and synthetics, and all of these questions we're now going to be able to answer. 5 administrations have promised to act on this issue. The Biden administration promised to do this, and the proposal began during the Biden administration. It got mired down in the chaos and inertia and disorganization of that. And I want to thank President Trump, who made the promise during the 2024 election that he was going to come in and solve this issue, that he was going to take decisive action, and he has kept that promise today. So thank you, for President Trump, for your vision. And because of that, we will have answers very soon. This will finally allow us to study this issue and to answer these questions for the American people.
Amen. And God bless Donald Trump for that.
Indeed. It's weird that we have the priestly class of the scientific materialism religion wearing their priestly garb behind him. I don't know what those white coats are being worn for.
It's to show you that they're authoritative sources, and therefore you have to trust them one way or the other.
It's so deranged. It's so deranged.
When RFK talks about these anecdotals of, the guy that used it for chemo and other things like that, I've, obviously part of what I've researched and looked into and experiences I've had, I went on a whole tour where we talked about cannabis, in public forums. And I've, hearing stories, and we would get, people from time to time that were against it or that were at least willing to explore the alternative to it. What I've never gotten a story of from somebody that all of a sudden gets schizophrenia from smoking weed, which is one thing they tell us all the time. Oh, it can induce psychosis and other things. Well, yeah, if you smoke enough of it, you're going to feel like you left the planet. That happens. I've done that.
Yeah.
Done that.
Yeah. And it is really strong when you talk about the stuff that's produced in California, for instance. It's strong. The other thing about this, and I just want to mention it quickly, and cheers to RFK Jr. I have no problem with RFK Jr. But the argument for this is the one that we were just making a couple of minutes ago. It's not that there's some scientifically provable benefit to other people. The practical concern and the pragmatic concern, those use cases are good and important, and those are arguments for why this might be beneficial, but they're not arguments for why the government shouldn't be allowed to control all of this. The government shouldn't be allowed to do it. And so, again, I appreciate RFK Jr. and the steps that are being taken, but in the argument he's making, he is still affirming their right and ability to do this and tell Americans what they're allowed to grow in their soil and what they're allowed to put in their bodies. And all of that has to be done away with.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Going back to the Prop 2 or 4, whatever it was in Florida, people were saying, this doesn't go far enough. Therefore, I'm going to vote no on it. And I'm like, you freaking moron. You are a literal moron. You take your battles and you win your battles. And then eventually you get to the point where you win the war. Is this the best thing ever for cannabis? Absolutely not. Is it the best thing thus far? Absolutely. This is the best thing that's happened to cannabis in the last, since the 1934 marijuana tax stamp act. So huge day. And we can move on. I know people are probably sick of me talking about cannabis. I think I'm going to be joining Jordan Sather on his show to talk about this some more. So we haven't finalized that yet, but I think I will be. So just the news here. Trump defies odds, achieves economic triple play with rate cuts, tariffs, and cooling inflation. What we watched, Chris, when we saw that speech that he gave on Wednesday, me and Alpha both yesterday were saying that I think he's transitioning now into the golden age, right? He laid the foundation over the last year with the tariffs, with all these pledges from foreign countries to invest in U.S. manufacturing, et cetera. Now we're starting to see the benefits coming to fruition. And here we go from Just the News. Contrary to conventional economic wisdom and warnings from critics on the left and many economists that cutting interest rates while imposing broad tariffs would inevitably stoke inflation, the Trump administration is achieving all three simultaneously, with the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates, significant tariffs already in place, and inflation cooling to 2.7% as of late 2025. Despite widespread predictions from economists and opponents that combining rate cuts with tariffs would prevent inflation from cooling, recent data shows the Federal Reserve reducing rates amid Trump's tariff regime while inflation has eased. The Consumer Price Index for November 2025 has showed headline inflation cooling to an annual rate of 2.7%, down from 3% in September and below the economist consensus expectation of 3.1%. And core inflation came in even lower at 2.6%, the slowest pace since early 2021. And we'll jump over here to CNBC for their shock and awe.
The number of the morning, the CPI, maybe coming in a little bit better than expected. 2.7%, a little light here. I'm just reading the headlines here. Year over year, 2.7. Ex-food and energy core, 2.6. So 0.4 off. That is a very good number here. And it really, I have not looked at the internals. I'll look at them now, but it suggests that the internals are good as well. Let's see, year over year, over the last 12 months. There is no month to month, but some guys will be able to calculate. Seasonally adjusted index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% over the 2 months. So correct my math here, Michael Santoli, but 0.2 divided by 2 is 0.1.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's a very, very low monthly rate here. The index for shelter increase, so you did get a really nice decline in shelter, which was 0.2. And so that was 0.1 per month.
All right. So CNBC, they can't go any other way but to, be a little promised, what would you call it? A little supportive of these numbers. This probably, though, is the best part right here. This is my favorite. CNN, Harvard University, trusted sources. Check this out.
I mean, I was surprised. It was a better number than anyone was expecting. Look, inflation's been very high. It's stayed high. It has not been coming down. But, people were expecting it to be above 3%. It was well below 3%. I mean, I think the president will take this as good news. The investors will think that interest rates will get cut more. So, it was a positive news. There's no other way to spin it.
Absolutely.
There's no other way to spin it. It was good. We were wrong. We've got egg on our face. President Trump was right the whole time. I'm going with my Happy Gilmore when he's apologizing to Chubbs. I'm not very good looking. You are very good looking. I'm a lousy golfer. You are one of the best golfers. Yeah, I love it. And then, of course, we'll go finish up here because Howard Lutnick was saying just basically the same thing Alpha and I were saying, that this is kicking off the golden age. 2026 is going to be a hell of a year.
president said he was going to bring prices down and that he was going to grow our revenue through tariffs, but he was not going to let prices go up. We're cutting energy prices. We're cutting interest rates, right? These things are coming down. And I think what you're going to see next year is an extraordinary year. Energy prices down, interest prices down, and earnings up, up, up.
I got to sneeze and I can't.
I think
that's
you're
the
supposed to look
worst.
up at the lights or something. You ever tried doing that?
No,
Hmm.
it's not working. It's not working. It's gone. It's
Maybe
gone.
fast.
So, yeah, again, for the last year, we've heard the experts, right, telling us that what Trump is doing is detrimental. This is going to backfire tremendously. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be the world's ending and I don't know, the sky is falling and everything else. And then, here we are a year later and Trump was right. Trump was right about everything. Just wear that hat today, Mr. President. Wear the Trump was right about everything hat. Yeah, I love it. I love it. One thing I didn't notice, Chris, I don't know if you caught this. Did you watch his speech on Wednesday night?
No.
Okay. I did not know this, but I was watching something else with my wife and I was like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. I want to watch this speech because we were all on the rug for the war, right? We thought the war was coming. I know you didn't. I know you did. Because of course you did it. Because of course you did it.
Just don't stand on rugs.
Well, no. So I just wanted to see. I wasn't.
I'm not blaming you, by the way. Yeah.
I wasn't going one way or the other, but I thought it was very interesting that you've got, Tucker out there saying that it's going to be an announcement of war. Congress comes in and votes to try and pull back the war powers resolution, which they failed at right before he makes this speech. And then President Trump comes out and he's like, hey, guys, the economy's doing great. Everything's great. We're going into the golden age, and just rugged everybody on that. I didn't know this because I watched it on, I think, like CNBC or something like that. There was a slideshow for the whole damn thing with, the stats and showing, the comparisons of the Biden economy and all that. The only outlet that aired the slideshow was Fox News. Every other outlet said that they wouldn't do it. And from what I'm being told and seeing reported, it's because they were unverified sources in the slides. And so therefore you can't, because apparently speech and debate clause isn't a thing. Congress can lie to us till they're blue in the face, but the president can't possibly put out statistics that would show support for what he's saying.
That's funny. They kind of played that same game with the president during the very deadly pandemic. Only their sources counted. And if the president was going to dispute what their sources said, well, then he was being a science denier.
Yeah, we don't want any of those science deniers, those people. All right, so let's jump into this story from NBC News. Trump Media to merge with nuclear fusion company. Trump Media and Technology will merge with a fusion power company in an all-stock deal valued at more than $6 billion. Devin Nunes will be the co-CEO of the new company, TAE Technologies, with TAE Technologies CEO Michael Binderbauer. So crazy name. TAE is a private company, and the merger with Trump Media would create one of the first publicly traded nuclear fusion companies. That N-word there, nuclear. Quote, we're taking a big step forward toward a revolutionary technology that will cement America's global energy dominance for generations, Nunes said. TAE focused on nuclear fusion, a technology that combines two lightweight atomic nuclei to form a single heavier one. It releases enormous amounts of energy, a process that occurs on the sun and other stars. And I do want to go a little bit further on this. New York Times had another article about this. The True Social parent to merge with nuclear fusion firm in $6 billion deal. And jump down here. It says some tech companies are looking at fusion as still experimental technology, as a clean energy source that could help feed the electricity thirst of artificial intelligence data centers, producing energy through nuclear fusion, the process that powers stars is a long elusive dream among scientists. Fusion uses fuels that are abundant, eliminates the risk of meltdowns, and produces no long-term radioactive waste. It could produce power that is free of carbon emissions and available around the clock. Like, Chris, this is the same outlet for the last 5 years that has been force feeding us lithium ion batteries as the only alternative, and windmills out in the middle of the ocean, and solar panels gathering light from the sun, but no power at night. And now they're like coming full circle, like, hey, Trump might have been right about this nuclear fusion thing.
Yeah, isn't that Nuno Loureiro character who we're told was murdered, the MIT scientist? Wasn't he working on these sorts of issues the other day? The other thing about this, I mean, I think that a lot of this is very much in line with some of the stuff that General Quast has talked about at various GARTs and on some various Badlands shows. I don't know the science, to be very clear, but if something like this is possible and this sort of thing is coming online, it seems like they're at least giving us cause to believe that's the case. And they're talking about the massive need for energy for AI. Well, the way that these AI data centers are being set up is a power plant next to the data center, so that the power from the power plant feeds into the data center, and then the remaining power produced by that power plant goes out onto the grid and becomes energy that everyone can use at a then reduced rate, you would suspect. That also happens to be the exact same setup as a Bitcoin mining facility. And the Trump Media and Technology Group is also involved in American Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin mining company. And so you see just piece by piece being plugged in to this Trump media and technology ecosystem. And it's starting to look like some of the stuff we've been talking about now for a few years, which has been primarily speculation. It's pattern matching. Hey, we can see that these pieces are becoming locked in place. As that happens, you can begin to see a bigger picture. And the bigger picture looks like he's building out a parallel system for media, for communications, for energy transmission and storage and generation, and for the financial piece to be operating on that as well. And so all of that is coming under the Trump Media and Technology Group, it seems. And then the question is, can a president, as a private businessman, put all of this stuff together? And then what happens to it? And I would suggest that maybe what happens to it is he says, this whole thing, this infrastructure here is for the American people, and this is going to be their birthright. And that might be a little too hopeful, and I'm totally open about that. I understand that that is a very hopeful outlook, but it's not an impossible outlook. And in the last day, which, by the way, yesterday was the day that the TikTok deal is leading into its next phase. And I've been suggesting for many years that TikTok looks like it's going to be going under TMTG as well. But DJT, the publicly traded stock for all of this, is up 75% in a day.
Is it really? I have shares.
Went from 1020, I think, at close of business on Wednesday night, to now it's at 17 something.
Let me see this. Let's see. Yeah, you're
going to be very happy.
Almost 17.
Okay,
well,
so it's down a little bit from me checking 15 minutes ago.
I'm a bag holder, so I'm not that happy. Yeah, I was at 10.5 and jumped all the way up to 17.
Oh, you bought when it was much higher, you're saying?
I think I'm in at I'm up much higher. Yeah. I'm in around $30.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So I don't care. I've been holding this for a couple of years now. No plans on selling DJT anytime soon.
If I am right at all about what I just said a couple of minutes ago, that $30 is probably going to look really like a good price in, I would assume, the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm there 100%. You know, the writing on the wall. So we've been lucky at Badlands because we do have the wisdom of General Quast and, you know, his experience and his insight And he's been telling us this since the very first GART, that there's going to be an energy revolution, and that, he's alluded to the nuclear reactors the size of picnic tables, right, is to power cities. Yep. You imagine having a picnic table in the center of your city that can power the entire thing, right? Then we see a month or two ago this Russian testing of ICBM missiles that are being powered by nuclear reactors, an underwater drone powered by a nuclear reactor. And President Trump, the media melts down because President Trump says, well, if Russia's going to be testing nukes, we got to be testing nukes. And so we're going to test nukes on the same scale that Russia's testing them. Well, how was Russia testing them? They weren't testing nuclear detonations of nuclear bombs. They were testing engines, driving, components, motors that were nuclear derived. And, I think we are teetering right now on the brink of that golden age, and cheap, clean energy like this is going to be one of those driving factors. And just, if you want to talk about utter fucking failures of the Democrats over the last, decade or so, how many resources have we blown on their bullshit green scam deals when all we needed to do this entire time was be investing in this technology?
Yes, but, and this is something I mentioned to G Money a couple of years back. Once I started having thoughts in the space I just laid out a few minutes ago, I was like, the Green New Deal does a lot to push energy in a certain direction. And yes, there's the windmills, and yes, there's the bullshit. But was some of that money directed toward these energy sources? Got to be open to that. Yeah. I mean, it would be a perfect cover for doing this sort of thing, to be honest.
Let's look real quick. Did the Green New Deal allocate any funding for nuclear fusion technology? Let's see.
Well, that's a little
no,
maybe too specific, but
the Green New Deal did not allocate any funding for nuclear fusion tech. The Green New Deal introduced a non-binding congressional resolution focused on broad goals like achieving net zero emissions through renewable efficiency and electrification without specifying or appropriating funds for any technologies, including fusion. So it's not just there. Did it address nuclear power? No, the Green New Deal did not positively address nuclear power. The resolution aimed for 100% clean, renewable, zero-emission energy by explicitly excluding nuclear power from its vision, prioritizing wind, solar, and other renewables.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we did get fucking scammed.
It's not hard to imagine.
No, it's definitely not. And I apologize for the language there. But so reading on here, government laboratories have achieved several tantalizing demonstrations of fusion's potential in recent years, but the process is enormously complicated to initiate and control. And developing machines that can do it consistently and affordably enough to power a grid could require technological advancements that have yet to be made, and perhaps even materials that have yet to be invented. Binderbauer, the CEO of TAE, said, quote, "We've got the tools and the tech and the engineering. What we were lacking was the capital." Jump down here and it says TAE's fusion technology differs from its competitors in the fuel its reactors would use. The company says this will make its reactors simpler to operate and maintain, helping to lower the cost of electricity that they generate. Still, as with all approaches to fusion, translating TAE's technology into a commercial power plant has been no small task. Quote, "We have the science solved," says Mr. Binderbauer, adding that the company's latest prototype is about the size of 2 double-decker buses. He said a utility-scale project would cost in the billions. The company said in their release that TAE has built 5 fusion reactors and raised more than $1.3 billion over the years, most recently in a June funding round backed by Chevron and Google. Sounds pretty promising to me, man.
Certainly interesting. Certainly something to pay attention to.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, let's jump over and talk about the tip of the iceberg in the Minnesota fraud story that's now being put out there.
Yes, we're looking into all those programs, yes.
And as you look across the country, are there any other examples where the cost of Medicaid-funded programs saw this kind of exponential growth? Is Minnesota clearly an outlier when you look at spending on these programs across the board?
I think we're an outlier in a bad way, yes. Have I gone through every 50 state? No, but you don't see fraud on this scale in other states. And part of that is just we sit here as a team, and it's a relatively small team. We're a relatively small U.S. Attorney's Office, and every day we look under a rock and find a new $50 million fraud scheme. That shouldn't be the case in a state of our size. Certainly other states have problem with frauds, but I think our problem is unique insofar as we've just opened the door. What we aren't seeing here, traditional Medicare or Medicaid fraud is people overbilling, upcoding. So you're instead of billing for a service with a relatively modest reimbursement, you claim to be providing a higher dollar value service, and you get more Medicaid payments or reimbursements that you should be entitled to. That's traditional. You may be getting 20% more. You're padding your bills. What we see here, and what I think is unique to Minnesota, is that's not what we're looking at. What we're seeing is programs that are just entirely fraudulent. These aren't companies that are providing some services but overbilling Medicare or Medicaid. These are companies that are providing essentially no services. They're essentially shell companies created to defraud the program, created to submit on a wholesale level fraudulent claims for services that aren't necessary and aren't provided. I think that's unique to Minnesota.
All right. So in response to, these exposés that have been going on here, Governor Walz, Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, as he's affectionately known, today's charges are exactly the type of strong action we need from prosecutors to put fraudsters behind bars. That's why we shut down housing stabilization services and hired an outside firm to audit these programs and stop payments to fraudulent providers. Tim Walz, the guy that is stopping SNAP benefits from being the data from SNAP from being audited by the federal government, the voter rolls, Medicare and Medicaid, basically any type of federal spending that is going into Minnesota. And that's not just exclusive to Minnesota. It's basically every quote unquote blue state that is stopping, Secretary Rollins, Secretary Duffy, although Duffy seems to have gotten some stuff done with the FHMSA, the truck drivers and all that stuff. But basically, you got these governors that are perpetuating this fraud. And it's not just exclusive to Medicare and Medicaid. If you actually go through and Doge does what Doge is supposed to be doing and we start exposing this stuff, it's going to be top to bottom corruption. And it's not just going to be blue states. It's going to be red states as well. But yeah, I'm here for it, man. Like I want to see all of this fraud exposed and all of this fraud cleaned up and people held accountable.
Yes. And then after that, we need to make sure that the government just doesn't give out money like this anymore. What are we doing? Why do we have a federal government doing any of this in the first place? Fraud or not, it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, 100%. And before we move on, this is another perfect segue because I just played an Alpha News clip there and saw Jessica in the chat there. Hat tip to Jessica. Give her a Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, the one working hard behind the scenes to keep this show going. But we got another sponsor, and it's brought to you by Alpha News. Quick word about one of the most important documentaries that you'll watch this year. It's called The Fall of Minneapolis, produced by Alpha News, the clip we just saw, and award-winning journalist Liz Collin. This film blows the lid off what really happened with George Floyd, the trial, the media, the lies, the police body cam footage that they never showed you, and how an innocent city was burned while good cops were thrown under the bus. It's already been watched by over 10 million people and praised by the likes of Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly, Dinesh D'Souza, and many more who care about truth and justice. The best part, it's 100% free right now. No subscription, no paywall. Go watch The Fall of Minneapolis today at thefallofminneapolis.com or just search for it on Rumble. And if this film opens your eyes like it has for millions of others, please consider a 100% tax-deductible donation at alphanews.org so they can wake up even more Americans. You deserve the real story. Watch it tonight. I remember listening to that documentary. I think it was on my way to the Lakeland Badlands meetup. It's like a 2.5 hour drive. And so I put that on and was listening to it and thought it was pretty good. All right. Let's jump into this story here from Mediaite. Pure cowardice. Political world erupts after Democrats kill autopsy of their 2024 defeat. This is a beautiful story. The DNC is, quote, scrapping its report on what went wrong in 2024. Quote, Ken Martin, the chairman of the DNC, said that he had decided not to publish a report that he ordered months ago into what went wrong for the Democratic Party last year. Party officials have conducted more than 300 interviews with Democrats in all 50 states to create a document that Mr. Martin had once pitched as crucial to charting the path forward, revealed the Times' Shane Goldmacher. Mr. Martin will instead keep the findings under seal. He believes that looking back so publicly and painfully at the past would prove counterproductive for the party as it tries next year to take power back in Congress. And then, of course, you got a whole bunch of retard Democrats that are freaking out about not seeing this report, including John Favreau, who said, unreal, the DNC's actual position is that if the public knew more about what Democrats got wrong in the last election, it would hurt the party's chances in the next election. Why does the party only trust people with the truth who are part of their insular club? And then goes on and on and on. And Chris, I know you and I both would have the same reaction to this, and it's none of it matters because our elections are fake and gay, and they can win them whenever they want.
That is the thing. And, you know, to do a post-mortem on the 2024 campaign, I mean, we're talking about Kamala Harris, who was not even a real candidate. The whole thing was ridiculous. It was a fake candidate in a fake election. So figuring out what went wrong, well, what went wrong is that they've lost control of the narrative and that the public no longer buys any of this stuff.
I don't think it's that they lost control of the narrative. I think it's that they lost control of the whatever things were in place to enable the cheat, because the narrative has always backed them up. Or excuse me. Let me backtrack that. The narrative has not always backed them up, and they do it anyways. Like, how many times, Chris, have we seen an election where, you know, they're like, oh, the Democrats are wildly unpopular right now. They're a barnyard dumpster fire and, you know, all this other shit. And then they're like, but the Republicans were just that much worse, apparently. And that's why so-and-so won this special election.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same shit, man.
Well, they definitely do that. But once you take the parties out of the picture, I mean, there was no way they could have reported to the nation that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris could have beaten Donald Trump last year. So that was baked into the cake that Donald Trump had to be named the winner. Otherwise, you make it clear to everyone that the elections are fake. And so you give that one away and then spend 4 years subverting him from both sides of the uniparty. And then you just clean up and take all the elections with the candidates as you have designated them in the 50 states at the state and local levels. So, I mean, that's what I said from January 2024. That is exactly what happened. And now we can see the subversion. And yeah, we have gotten the hose many times.
Yeah. Case in point, here's Harry Enton talking about exactly that.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
I just, and again, Chris, this is to the point that we were just making. Look at those numbers. Independents. That is independents. That is not Republicans. Meaning there's a difference between the people that approve of Democrats versus the people that disapprove of Democrats of 61 points.
Mm-hmm.
that is beyond insane. Like I if the election were held today and a Democrat somehow quote unquote won a race, and that's the number right there, like that's just absolutely insane. What we got here?
I just highlighted the wrong thing. I'm not sure if that was up, but Real Clear Politics always does the RCP poll averages over here. And I mentioned this, I'm not sure on what show, a couple of weeks ago, but Trump, they'll still talk about how unfavorable Trump's ratings are, but he's under by 9.1 according to these fake news polls. The Republican Party is under by 14.3. The Democrat Party under by 23.7. And so, they always will spin out the news about how the country dislikes Donald Trump. And, fake news polling aside, the country is unhappy about politics in general. Whoever you put up in front of people, they're going to be like, I don't really like that guy. But the Democrats are clearly doing the worst, even according to the fake news polls.
Yeah. Again, maybe that's what it's going to take is a 2026 electoral landslide for the Democrats, while having guys like Harry Enton sitting there saying that these numbers, we've never seen numbers this bad before ever. And people are just going to look at that and be like, maybe Trump was right about the elections. Maybe the elections are fake and gay. And, there's nothing we can do. We can't vote ourselves out of this, as G Money would say, as you would say, as I've said. It's just, yeah. Tune into Why We Vote tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to say is hopefully it doesn't take that long. Hopefully people can figure that out without it taking another 10.5 months. I mean, this is the sort of thing that you could realize in a day if you just think about it with an open mind. Hey, is this how power is transferred in the world? Are they going to turn over the most powerful nation in all of human history because a bunch of jackasses who can't stop watching TV said that they want it to be different? No.
Chris, you just don't know how to read data.
Yeah.
So you need Google to tell you how to be able to read Google's data. And that's that. Yesterday we talked about this story. This 2 Massachusetts store owners charged in the $7 million SNAP fraud case. This store was making, I don't know if you've seen this story, Chris, but they were making almost $500,000 a month in SNAP benefits. $500,000 in SNAP redemptions per month. Do you want to see the size of the store?
Is it like a bodega?
That's the size of the store.
Wow, smaller than a bodega.
It is
even a store that looks like a closet.
It looks like a pantry. Yeah, it looks like somebody's pantry. We'll zoom in on this. Like how were they able to orchestrate this fraud here for any amount of time, and nobody was like, hey, this company here has a higher per square foot valuation than the richest store in the world, which I think is Apple still. I think Apple makes something like $150 per square foot of retail space.
Jeez.
This store would crush that because I think it's 150 square feet, and it's making $500,000 a month. Let's see what the math. Let me just math this real quick. So if you're making $500,000 a month and you're 150 square feet, that's $3,333 per square foot that this establishment was making off of SNAP benefits. So
crushing it.
Teach me how to Dougie. I don't know.
Are they selling like bulk seeds and spices? They just like you
They're
come by
selling
a
nothing.
plastic baggie and they pour some in your.
They're selling absolutely nothing. Magic bean stalks. Jack's magic bean. Yeah.
You asked how that sort of thing could happen. I think that it's kickbacks.
No, well, it was all SNAP fraud. They were
right. That's what I'm saying. But like, how does this just go unnoticed? How is this allowed to continue? Well, probably kickbacks.
Yeah. Let me charge you $1,000 in SNAP and I'll give you back 300.
Yeah.
And you can take whatever products you want. By the way, I don't actually sell any of these products, so you can just take whatever you want. And it was so bad that they said the surveillance teams that were investigating this said people would never walk out with bags. So they didn't even want the products, even after they gave them the money. So All right, just the news reporting here before we do a little geopolitics. Milwaukee judge found guilty of obstruction for allegedly helping illegal migrant evade arrest. Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan was found guilty by a jury on Thursday for one count of felony obstruction. Dugan was acquitted of the misdemeanor charge of concealing the illegal immigrant in her courtroom as she escorted them out the back door. In geopolitics, we got some news here. Kremlin envoy set to visit Miami for talks on U.S. peace plan for Ukraine. They actually got here yesterday. My niece texted me and was like, is President Trump coming to Florida or something? I'm in Miami, and the whole highway is shut down with cop cars and a single lines of SUVs. And I was like, oh, no, that's probably Kirill Dmitriev coming over here to talk with Witkoff and Kushner.
Yeah, the Miami thing is interesting because there was, of course, that report. Was it in Axios? I can't remember where the report was a couple of weeks ago, but about the Florida contingent of neocons and like the regime-oriented Hispanic immigrants who had moved there with all this money, controlling Marco Rubio and other Florida politicians, the people who were primarily pushing for the war with Venezuela, are all of that is coming out of Florida and Miami in particular. And then there's been Miami stuff about Jewish communities going to Miami from New York, for instance, and then encouragement that not happen. You know, Miami seems like it is right now the hub of a lot of very strange stuff. And so I'm not particularly surprised to see this meeting happening there.
Miami is a cultural melting pot. We've got everything from Hispanics to Haitians to blacks to Jews. We've got all sorts. It's just there's culture everywhere in Miami. Some of the best damn Cuban food you'll ever have in your life, by the way. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, it is interesting that they're having this meeting down there. It says Kirill Dmitriev, who heads Russia's sovereign wealth fund, is set to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump's envoys Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow is preparing for contacts with the U.S. to learn about the results of their meetings in Berlin. Putin warned again on Wednesday that Moscow would seek to extend its gains in Ukraine if Kyiv and its Western allies rejected the Kremlin's demands in peace talks. I love it. Leverage. Putin wants all the areas in 4 key regions captured by his forces, as well as the Crimean Peninsula, which was illegally annexed in 2014. It was not to be recognized as Russian territory. He also demanded that Ukraine withdraw from some areas in eastern Ukraine that Moscow forces haven't even captured yet, which Ukraine has rejected. The Kremlin also insists that Ukraine abandon its bid to join NATO and won't accept the deployment of any troops from NATO and will view them as a quote-unquote legitimate target. And then we've got this bizarre cryptic message from President Volodymyr Zelensky. I have no idea what he's alluding to at the end there, but I'll let you use your imagination.
The United States have their policy. They don't see us in NATO for now. Everything in our lives is for now. Maybe the position will change in the future. Maybe somebody will come to realize that strong Ukrainian army strengthens NATO, and not vice versa. Politicians change. Somebody lives, somebody dies, and it's life.
Somebody lives, somebody dies. If he dies, he dies. Yeah, that's a very strange statement for Zelensky to be making right there.
Especially because he doesn't have a whole lot of leverage.
He has zero leverage. In fact, I'm waiting for the day, and I know this is going to happen soon. President Trump has got to give the EU and all these NATO scumbags the pee-pee slap and tell them to stop talking to Zelensky, get the bleep out of these negotiations, and let the big boys talk. And by the big boys, I mean Putin and Trump. Zelensky, you will take the deal that you are given And that is that. And this has been a pretty fair deal, especially when you take out the corruption investigations into how they misused all of the billions of dollars that we've given them over the last 3 years.
I found the article, by the way, just to put it on people's radar. It's worth a look. Unheard was the outlet. How Miami Hawks hijacked Trump's foreign policy. They've long dreamed of toppling Maduro. And that is quite an article. I suggest everyone take a look at it.
We have the worst politicians in the world down here in South Florida. And that's why you see the likes of what was it, Maria Salazar, that was, out there like greeting Maria Corina Machado. And yeah, just absolutely crap, man. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for today. Until these Europeans leave Zelensky and stop whispering sweet nothings into his ear and empowering the little midget, they're not going to get anywhere. Because Zelensky was like to the table. When Trump first put the 28-point plan out, he's like, oh, this is great. Let's do this. And then he goes and meets with Merz and Starmer and Macron. And they're like, hey, don't buy into this. We can make you bigger than you could ever imagine because we're the European Union. And, it's like, you guys are living in our shadows, I can't wait until we see the day that Trump and Putin are announced as not just the sovereign alliance, but as a legitimate defense alliance. I can't wait.
That would be great. The meltdown would be intense.
Oh man, the Mockingbird media and the neocons would their little heads would explode. All right, let's jump into some rants here. Blue Demon. Actually, you know what? Before we get into rants, let's get a word from our sponsors here. For Christmas, we got Soft Disclosure. Gotta get your beard feeling nice and soft with Soft Disclosure. And guys, you don't have to have like an epic beard like this. I'm touting my own beard as epic. You don't have to have a huge beard. I'm not going to say epic, but you don't have to have a huge beard to appreciate beard oil. So get you some Soft Disclosure.
Soft Disclosure just dropped new favorites for the season. The lotion, your 5-ounce favorite, is still here. And now we've added full 11-ounce bottles. New Lavender Tea Tree Deodorant. Clean, calm, and effective. New tallow bars, chamomile lemon rose, and naked. Rich moisture that actually works. And now the lineup is complete. Beard oil in unscented and spiced vanilla. Palo lip balms, available in chamomile mint, vanilla, naked, and vanilla tangerine. Palo bar minis for pocket-ready hydration. Available in vanilla coffee and naked. And finally, Lavender Vanilla Lotion. Clean, calm, and made to work. Visit softdisclosure.com. Use code Badlands and get 15% off. Soft Disclosure. For truth you can gift.
All right, Soft Disclosure. And Jackie in the chat says you can put the beard oil on your face too. So there you go. So I'll just take it and just lather it up and just everywhere. Put it everywhere. All right, guys, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. Let's go ahead and jump into the rants. Blue Demon 75, hit the like and leave a tax-free tip. Thank you so much. D Anderson 24, tax-free? Question mark? Yes. Harold _ Patriot. CannCon, I showed my wife your twin brother who is talented with being a musician and told her it was you. She totally bought into it and was super impressed by your talent. LOL. Yeah, I probably could have passed. I probably could have convinced at least Chris Paul that was me in another life and that I was a classically trained guitarist. And I bet you he would have bought it.
Well, yeah, but that's only because you're my friend and I trust you to tell me the truth.
There you go. There you go. So there you go. Emerald Dragon 1333. I think an important note is that the homeless man living in the basement of Brown was a former student of said Ivy League college. What's that say about college education in this country? Good morning, gents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. It could also be, like Elon Musk is technically homeless. He doesn't. he does it. He talks about that all the time. He's like, he goes and sleeps on people's couches, and he's a couch surfer, right? So maybe the guy just really loves his research and wants to. He's Goodwill Hunting. He cleans the place up and does some complex math equations on the board. PJ Corrigan, it's a Yuletide Chris Paul Friday. I wish both of you gentlemen a Merry Christmas with lots of time spent with your loved ones. Maybe 26 will bring some Be Reasonable podcast specials. We miss you. We need you. Hell, I need you. I'm a mess without you. I miss you so damn much. I miss being with you. I miss being near you. I miss your laugh. I miss your scent. I miss your musk.
Yeah, I mean, you know what that's from, right?
No.
That's Anchorman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. I miss your musk. I should have caught it with that one. Oh, that's epic.
Otherwise, that would be extremely gay.
Well, I mean, it is PJ Corrigan, so could be extremely gay. Could be. BK, I'm just kidding. Good to see you, brother. Merry Christmas to you and yours. BK Running, just want to give each of you $5 for a Christmas coffee. I watch every day, and this is my favorite show. Love you all, and God bless. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And Merry Christmas to you. Sleep State, curious that a fusion scientist was murdered at MIT and then DJT buys a fusion company. Absolutely. Chris was just kind of mentioning that there. All right, before our final thoughts, guys, real quick, get ready, fight fans. On December 20th, the biggest crossover boxing event of the year drops live from Dubai, only on Rumble Premium. It's Misfit Mania, the fight before Christmas, headlined by Andrew Tate, stepping into the ring against heavyweight champion Chase Daymore for Misfits Boxing's heavyweight title. This isn't just another bout. It's a global event with a stacked undercard and all-out action you can't miss. Tune in exclusively on Rumble Premium and without drama, power, and one of the most talked about clashes of the year. Mark your calendars December 20th because Misfits Mania is about to deliver fireworks. Sign up today. What's with all these like celebrities boxing now?
But Andrew Tate, to be fair, was a fighter, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't a boxer, was he? You got Jake Paul. I don't know, man. Maybe we should start a boxing league. You want to start a boxing league? We'll do it at Gart.
Got a lot of stuff to do, man.
I would be totally down to put on like headgear and like maybe like heavy gloves. We gotta go with heavy gloves. I don't want to hurt anybody, but I would be totally down to have some boxing. You know who I think would be the best boxer in the group?
Burning Bright.
No, hell no. Not Burning Bright. You kidding me? Dude, he could be throwing you all around and all that shit. This is one of the things I get into the arguments with when people talk about like MMA. They're like, "Oh, you're a Marine." Yeah, I was a black belt in MCMAP, Marine Corps Martial Arts Program.
Oh, wow.
The difference is I don't fight. We were never trained to fight to tap somebody out. We were trained to kill somebody. So, like I got this guy one time, I got him in like a triangle choke, and he's got his chin tucked and, whatever. And he's ratcheting on to my legs or whatever. I don't even remember the details, but I'm sitting here. I'm like, bro, if this was a fight for me, I would, I'd reach behind your septum right here and yank that out. Like I'd, grab it down on your lower jaw. Like I'm telling him all the ways that we would be able to destroy you and the training that we do for that type of fighting. And he ends up tapping me out. And I'm like, that's cool. You tapped me out. Cool. The whole time you were tapping me out, you left every single major organ in your body exposed to, crushing blows. It's the same kind of argument I have with Burning Bright. Although I do not think I would want to fight him. I would be worried about either Alpha or G Money.
Okay.
And only because G Money's huge and he's probably got like a fucking 8-foot wingspan. And like, if he actually lands one on you, and Alpha just looks like a boxer, like he's short, compact. I wouldn't want to fight him either.
Probably right.
Me and Chris will fight. That's me and Chris Paul will fight.
Oh, thanks. Especially after you tell that story. I'll be like MacGruber going around ripping throats.
All right, man. What you got coming up, brother?
Well, I'll be on DPH tomorrow night. I dropped an article on Substack and that is now up for free for everyone. And I did just put out a bunch of new merch designs, so you can go to cancelcodetour.com and check those out.
All right. And I don't have anything. Well, actually, yes, I do. I lied. I've got Why We Vote coming up tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we got Spellbreakers after that, followed by Only Land. So make sure to tune into those. I will be on my show tomorrow morning. I skipped last week because of my sickness, but I will be doing my weekend review tomorrow morning, rumble.com/CannCon. If you guys want to jump over there and give me a follow. I usually do it around 10 or 11 a.m., usually closer to 11 a.m. And it's always a fun show. So check that out as well. And then I'll see you later. Eric Q Freedom. Brian, I'm telling Alpha that. That's fine. We had a really funny clip last night in SitRep where when we got the rug on the war. Just go check out SitRep from last night. We're out of here.
I think we got one last minute Rumble rant from PR Collie, who says, please wish my lovely wife Renee a happy birthday. She turned 66 today and has watched your show for years. So hey, happy birthday.
I'm so glad you caught that. Happy birthday, Renee. 66. Heck yeah. Congratulations. And thank you again for that. And good catch, Chris. I would have felt so freaking awful if I missed that one, because somebody's asking for a happy birthday and they've been listening to us for years. You guys are gluttons for punishment. All right. We'll see you guys later. I'll see you tonight on Why We Vote.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.